When someone hears the word poor or hungry, they usually think of the African continent. But why is Africa so underdeveloped? Was Africa always underdeveloped? The short answer to this question is, well, no. The richest person of all time was in fact an African. Mansa Musa of Mali was a really rich man, but talking about him could be a whole video in itself. So yeah, short answer, no. Some parts of Africa had been thriving up until Europe decided they should colonize 90% of the continent after the Berlin Conference in 1881. The conference laid down the ground rules and regulations for European countries to follow during the colonization process. The mass invasion, occupation, and subsequent independence movements in Africa led to today's poverty-stricken situation. European countries drew up borders without concern for the natives and their local rivalries, which led to people groups being split up, and some groups with animosity towards each other being clumped together. Needless to say, problems occurred. Throughout this century of occupation, European powers drew as much wealth as they could from their colonies and didn't bother to help the natives. Once the nations of Africa became independent, they did not have the infrastructure in place to maintain a stable government, and subsequently fell into chaos. Since the first countries in Africa became independent, there have been 22 civil wars on the continent which have fully concluded. In chronological order, they are the First Sudanese Civil War, the Congo Crisis, the Cambodian Civil War, the Nigerian Civil War, the Ethiopian Civil War, the Mozambican Civil War, the Angolan Civil War, which lasted a whopping 22 years, the Second Sudanese Civil War, the First Liberian Civil War, the Rwandan Civil War, which led to the genocide of almost 1 million Tutsi people, the Casamance conflict in Senegal, the Algerian Civil War, the Burundi Civil War, the First Congo War, the clashes in Cambodia, the Republic of Congo Civil War, the Guinea-Bissau Civil War, the Second Congo War, the Second Liberian Civil War, the Fourth Chadian Civil War, the Second Ivorian Civil War, and finally, the Northern Mali conflict. This doesn't even take into account the 8 ongoing civil wars in Africa, or the dozens of conflicts between multiple nations, terrorist groups, and other entities. So to recap, all of this conflict is largely due to European powers carving up the continent in Berlin 137 years ago, where they disregarded the needs of native people and used them as poker chips to advance their own agendas. As we step further into the 21st century, we must remember that people are people, and we should treat them as such, so we can avoid genocides, civil wars, and other armed conflicts in the future.